unmet needs. There still seems to be some confusion as to exactly what an unmet need is, how to identify it, and then how to save it. So I think less about how to save it in terms of the operation within Refer, but more about what to save it as. So we're going to try and give a little more clarity to that whole piece because it's really critical right now that we be able to provide outcome measures to the community, to be able to show the community where we're falling down in that meeting our customers' needs because there aren't any programs available for them, or their qualifications are too narrow, too broad, whatever. So the first thing that you need to do is identify a taxonomy term that matches your caller's request. And you know, I'm not going to go to Refer as to how to do this. You know that there's a definition button for you to help you identify the definition of taxonomy terms. I think everybody's pretty savvy when it comes to finding the term that matches your caller's need. You always want to ask about target populations also. And then you're going to discuss a program or service with a caller. You're going to agree with that caller on whether what you've found meets their need, and then you're going to save a referral whenever possible, okay? However, there's plenty of situations when it's not possible. So in order to get to identifying our reasons for unmet needs and that kind of thing, let's talk a little bit about how to define a need and who defines the need. Obviously, the caller is going to either directly request a need, or you are going to make a suggestion to your caller, and at that point they're going to agree or they're going to disagree with you. Okay, if they agree with you, then you pursue the taxonomy term that best fits satisfying their needs. So let's say you're the specialist and you say to your caller, so you can visit that pantry tomorrow. Would you like me to find a hot, I'm sorry. So you can visit that pantry tomorrow. Would you like me to find a hot meal where you could eat some food tonight? And they say, yeah, that'd be cool. Okay. Then what you have is 2 taxonomy terms that you've searched under, and hopefully 2 met needs that you've recorded as referrals. A need is unmet when the taxonomy term associated with the need that the caller has requested or agreed that they need fails to return a result, okay? Or the returns, for one reason or maybe many, either the caller refuses that or for some reason it's not going to work out for them. They might not qualify. There's a whole lot of different reasons. So let's say the caller says, I'm looking for a food pantry. You say, here are some, and you begin to list them. Your caller says that those are all too far away, and the specialist would say something like, would you like me to then find you a hot meal that's closer, and you can go somewhere and get something to eat? And they say, no. Okay. What unmet need would you record? Okay. Food pantries. Okay. The person's initial request was for a food pantry. They need groceries. They don't necessarily need a soup kitchen. However, because you couldn't find anything to meet their food pantry needs and you're concerned about them, you're making alternative suggestions. It's entirely up to them whether they think your alternative suggestion is a viable suggestion for them. goes along with the whole AIRS standard of the Bill of Rights that your caller is always the final decision on whether they can or can't, should or shouldn't, go ahead and take a referral from you. So any questions so far about that? Because there was a whole lot of scuttlebutt in our 9 o'clock session regarding making suggestions, having the caller turn those alternative suggestions down, and then saving unmet needs. Now, a whole different story arises if the person says, yeah, I could use a soup kitchen, and then you can't find a soup kitchen that meets their need, then you've found 2 unmet needs, and you're going to record 2 unmet needs. But just because you made an alternative suggestion to your caller doesn't necessarily make it an unmet need if they turn it down.
Susan?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? It's Mickey. I had a caller call me. He had his Ohio direction card stolen, and it was on a Sunday morning. The closest hot meal was St. Philip Newry, which was 5 miles away, which I presented to him. He turned that down, and then the next pantry that was available to him was going to be the Salvation Army in Miles Park. And he cited very specific reasons why he will never get food from that pantry again. So I documented it as he refused each of those.
Well, did he initially agree with you that he needed food that day? I mean,
yes, he
either
agreed
in the
with
form
me.
of a hot meal or in the form of groceries.
Yes, he did. He did.
Okay.
And what about the other hot meal? What about other hot meal options? Were there any that day?
No, there's nothing. In that area of Cleveland on Sundays, it's St. Philip Newry. That's it.
Okay.
And so, and he was without transportation, so there was no way he was going to get there.
Right.
And he had small children.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to make sure, because the other thing that had
Yeah.
come up on the other call was people had questions about, I think there's still lingering questions, and I know because I can see it when I run reports on the unmet needs. There's still some confusion around recording unmet needs that we're doing it based on the service and not based on the program. Because I'm still finding, like, people will still, like, offer, you know, like, if there were 3 options, they'll offer, like, the first 2 options. The person will like refuses, and then they'll decide they won't even offer the third and just record an unmet need, even though we don't even know that it's really an unmet need because the third option wasn't offered. Or, you know, they'll offer 3 services, the third one will work, and the person will say, oh, that's great, like that sounds like it'll work, and then they'll record 2 unmet needs for the other 2 that were the same thing. Like if you give 3 food pantries and they say, no, I don't want that first one, that's too late in the day, I don't want the next one, that's too far away. Oh, the third one, that's great. People were still sometimes recording 2 unmet needs to food pantries, even though they'd found a pantry. It really was, it's a met need. The pantry need was met, but people were still, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. No, and actually I need to talk to you about that with my research with Case.
Right.
But that's a whole other story because that's going to be a concern coming up if we're going to go forward with the research question that Diane wants.
Yeah.
With Diane and I and Susan and I have talked about. So, but that's another time.
Right. Yeah, that'll be a whole other separate type of thing to record. Yeah.
Any other
I have a question.
Or go ahead.
Okay, and this is something that Matt said. If there are 3 food pantries and the third food pantry is out of the county, if the first 2 is too far for him, why would I offer him the third pantry?
I mean, if the first 2 are both too far and the third one is all farther away, I just mean if the first 2 they don't want for different, you know, I don't know, I wasn't even, you know, I was just thinking through a thing. I probably wasn't thinking if that's what I said.
Okay.
No, I just, yeah, if it's the same reason and the other one's farther, yeah, that'd be silly to offer the third one if the first 2. If the one 2 miles away is too far, then yeah, I wouldn't offer the one that's, but if the, like, you know, if the first the second one, if they're different reasons, and then the third one's not offered. It's more, I think, the issue of my second example that we're seeing, where the need ends up being met, but the unmet needs are almost being recorded like programmatically, or from the other side where someone asks for a program. This was the thing we kept seeing when before we even remade the reasons for the unmet needs. Someone would call and say, like I want the fun program, and you look it up and you're like, oh, I don't see that here, but like I can find something else that like does the same thing, and then we get these unmet needs with this note that like the unmet need was the fun program, even if like the fun program was like a Boys and Girls Club type thing, and you found exactly that term that would be indexed with if we had it. Do you know what I mean?
I do. Okay.
Yeah. So where it's like, well, we're not really recording the unmet need on the program. It's like, well, what does that program do? Maybe I can find something else. And then additionally, I'll send a transmittal over to research this fun program that's going on that we want to get to the bottom of.
Yeah, kind of taking us all the way back to the very first slide that we looked at. And the success of all of this depends on agreeing with your caller that you're looking under the right taxonomy term that defines the need that they have. So that's kind of undermines the success or the failure of recording an unmet need if it turns out to be an unmet need. So recording an unmet need involves searching by taxonomy term, and then if no results are found within refer, you'll get a pop-up. And you'll have the opportunity right there within refer, because they tell you we haven't found anything, given your parameters. And you can either ask your supervisor if you think that's strange, or if you know that that's an unmet need in that community, you can go ahead and just record that unmet need as service doesn't exist, because refer didn't pop anything onto your match list, so therefore that taxonomy must not exist. An example would be your caller looking for an appliance. You're going to search under appliance, and you're not going to find anything in a lot of communities, and you're going to register that unmet need. You're going to provide, hopefully, an alternative of a thrift shop or an undesignated temporary financial assistance, and perhaps find something there, okay, or maybe not. So record the unmet need either by using the unmet need link in the top. Well, we removed the one inside the service narrative, so this slide is a little bit out of date. But your taxonomy search term should appear in your unmet need list. And then go ahead and select that, and that's where we are going to move on in a minute to the selecting the correct unmet need. I did want to stick to covering this old slide though, because I want to reemphasize that we should ignore target terms when it comes to saving unmet needs, and only save the generic one. Not that you shouldn't go ahead and look for something for, disabled or a veteran or that kind of thing, but you want to avoid saving it connected to the target term. You want to save that generic that's hanging out there that's just the food pantry, as opposed to the food pantry for the homebound. Okay. Any other questions before we move on to our list? If I can just pick it up here.
What happens when you go to other?
Other? You mean
that's
in
what it
the
said on the
unmet
screen.
need list?
Yeah, right.
I don't think we're going to have that anymore.
Oh,
Yes,
because that was on the screen. That's what I asked.
Yeah, those are old slides. We
That's
kind
all.
of tried to morph an old PowerPoint in
okay.
order to kind of scramble and have a better presentation for the 3 o'clock group.
Okay.
Yeah. So we tried to just we went right to kind of showing, because you guys gave such great feedback around some of the new reasons you thought we would need, and we tried to jump right into that. But then we got a lot of questions that made us kind of say, hey, I think we did a really bad job over time. Kind of, we just wanted to reinforce actually when unmet need, what constitutes an unmet need, because that was a lot of the questions we got on that first call. And especially like the point I had really, because as I've been kind of reporting out on the new reasons, the other thing we've just noticed a lot of is people using the reason service actually does not exist for services that definitely exist. Like, I think the 2 of the top unmet needs we have are for electric payment assistance and gas payment assistance. And in places where I know, even if it's just PRC that comes up, like, you're going to return hit results for that. And so the other thing was just to make sure people, that we had kind of made it clear that, like, the service actually does not exist, would really only be used if there's nothing coming up on the match list. I can't think of a situation where you can return results, but you select that as the reason that the need is unmet.
Yeah, I think it's a good rule of thumb that if there's a lot of things on your match list that meet the taxonomy term and your caller agrees that's the service that they need, then the service exists. So you want to try and find a different reason, and the service just might not exist at that point in time because it's a seasonal service, and you'll see that option here as, at least on my screen, it's option number 4. On your screens, once it's in refer, which this is not updated in refer yet, you'll see it as option number 3. And then you see all of the ineligibles. Matt did add ineligible housing status, and that's for those callers whose housing situation disqualifies them for service. The example that we give here is that the caller has bed bugs in a rented apartment, and the bed bug program that's currently out there right now is only for homeowners. Okay.
Would that be used for water as well if they're a renter and don't have any children, or does that still go under family composition?
I would say water, if they don't, and they're trying to qualify for PRC, right? Or if they need children in order to qualify for any of the programs that are out there.
Well, yeah, because there's basically, like in Cleveland, there's only the Cleveland Housing Network, which you have to be a homeowner, and then there's PRC.
Right, so it's either or both that might apply to them. So you might end up registering an unmet need under both ineligible for housing status because they rent, they don't own the home, even though the water bill might be in their name, right?
Yeah, correct.
Or in addition, you want to also be looking at PRC, asking about the family composition. When you find out that it doesn't fit, then they're also ineligible for that reason.
Oh, I guess I didn't realize you could
unmet needs in that situation.
Okay, I guess I didn't realize you can select 2. That was all right to do. Okay.
Yeah, because I think we need to begin to think a little more globally in terms of what this means to our communities and reporting out what unmet needs, what programs people ask for that they just don't exist or they don't qualify for. And then the third composition would be that they refuse them for actually a pretty good reason. You know, it's too far, there's too much wait time, they can't afford, the copay that would go along with something, or the hours are just in the morning or one day a week in the morning and they work. So it's an inconvenient time. They had to refuse that resource.
I have a question about the undesirable location. The description used here, I've been using that if it's too far. They refuse it because it's too far. Is that still undesirable location?
Are they stating that it's too far that they don't have transportation to it, or too far
like
that
like
they
for
refuse to
like
go?
for instance with the school supplies, when they live in Portage County or a different county and the only thing we have is up in Lakewood or something, that would be, even though they have transportation, they're not going to be driving 40 minutes for school supplies.
I would say undesirable location in that situation.
Okay.
Yeah. The example that we've given here is the caller in Westlake looking for free tax prep refuses to travel more than 2 blocks east because they don't want to get shot.
Right. Yeah, I knew that was in there for that purpose mainly.
Yeah, we might need to clean these up just a little bit.
Yeah, that's an interesting. That's another one that we kind of didn't foresee just from not having people on the phone. So you're totally right. But I can understand that now. Yeah, undesirable location was like, it was the hardest one to phrase because we were like, well, we have to be really PC about this. But then it turns out we actually didn't, because you're right. It could also mean that it's not necessarily a transportation barrier. It's more of just like a transportation unwillingness.
Yep.
Cool. Or that it just wouldn't make sense to go waste that much gas for something that's, not worth that much. You know what I mean? Like, she'd spend more money on gas than she would, than the cost of the goods that she's getting helped with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a legitimate reason for your caller to refuse the resource.
So,
and then
Susan,
the other two, go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, Susan, so on this unmet need list, is this a list where there's further revision, where we go into unmet need the next time we will see more selection, or am I wrong?
You're right.
I'm right, okay.
You'll see more selections, you'll see more, hopefully they'll fit more of our general situations with our callers. I think we're still going to find some of those situations where, the person needs such extensive work that although the service exists, it's not going to fit their situation. And we kind of want to avoid any kind of catch-all or even using the other. As Marty noticed, the other exists now, but it won't, or it existed back then, but it won't exist now, because we really want everybody to think globally about what is lacking in the community to keep that caller from getting this service. Is it transportation? Is it the time that the service is offered? Is it that they've already exhausted those benefits and they can't return to that source?
I have another question.
Yeah, I have a question.
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry, Ann, but I noticed in here, so there's ineligible for amount of help is insufficient to meet need, and then there's refused resource for the amount of help is inefficient. Isn't that almost basically the same thing?
You're right. I should have put that in red because I forgot I added the refused resource. Well, I thought there were some resources that if you couldn't cover, like if the amount of help wouldn't resolve the problem, that you were basically ineligible.
Okay, for like the 300 from Ohio Fuel Fund, they can't come up with the amount to cover their race.
We're being ineligible versus you can kind of get this amount, but they just say, well, that's not going to help. That amount isn't going to help.
Okay. Thank you.
And Ann, what was your question?
I forgot.
If it hits you again,
I really did. If it comes to me, I'll write it down and then ask someone.
Okay. All righty. Any other questions on this? Comments? You're going to get a handout at our next staff meeting, which will be kind of a tidied up list of what you see here. You know, we still have to clean up some of our examples and maybe even some of the definitions and get it into a more workable format. And it will be available on your data sheet as a tip sheet so that we can spend a little bit of time initially getting used to these definitions and figuring this out. You know, have a quick, easy reference in your checkbox data sheet to this until we get used to it. Any other questions or comments? Matt, did I miss anything, especially in the definition of what, you know, constitutes an unmet need or why we want to do this?
I don't think so. I mean, I think your point of just thinking about it kind of on the large scale as that we're reporting out about this thing because we're kind of reporting on the issue like on community needs and reasons within the community people can't access stuff more so than like about a specific caller and why. You know, I feel bad because I don't want people killing themselves trying to like really parse so finely the exact situation. But to rather get kind of a sense of maybe the, you know, those main, like maybe if there's 2 or 3 factors that are really the barriers. I mean, I think you just kind of have to look at it again from kind of a broader perspective, even though, you know, so much of what we do is so, it's like this caller and getting that caller's needs met. But the unmet needs is really more of a part of that reporting process and looking at the holistic idea of why large groups of callers aren't able to access certain types of resources. And so that gives anyone some guidance or makes them feel a little more comfortable with the list. I mean, I can tell you at this point, the list is like pretty much as long as I'm comfortable having people have to sort through things. It's definitely more comprehensive than the one Michigan is using, which is kind of where this all started. Was we had talked about refining these unmet need reasons, and then when Michigan was here for the Worldwide Database Group, I was talking to their director about their unmet need reasons, and so they had sent over what they were using, and that kind of was the beginning of what I used as a template to start ours, and then I kind of added some and took out some, and then once we talked to you guys, we added some more, and we threw back in some of Michigan that I hadn't included originally, and so now we have, I think, a much more comprehensive list, but I also am worried I don't want it to necessarily become overly comprehensive or overly just so esoteric that you can't really parse through it and that we can't really report out on it. So I'm trying to find some kind of very effective, happy, not necessarily medium, more a little higher than medium, a medium well, let's say.
Real quick, I see one other one, if you don't mind. The service exists, but not with client service provider. Yeah. I'm assuming that is also kind of more geared towards like Cleveland Public Power when heat is not active.
Or like the sewer district one, like if they're in one area that's not served by the regional sewer district, but they want to get that sewer help, like that only helps people. So like I know only part of Strongsville is served by the regional sewer district, so I guess theoretically you could be in the part of Strongsville that isn't. But yeah, anything where, or like I mean even sometimes like there'll be a program that's available for Dominion Gas but not for Columbia active at any given time in any community.
Oh yeah, like right now for, and so let's say they don't have children, we would click on that as well as family household composition then too. Both of them, right?
So what's the situation?
They don't have any children and they're looking for help with gas. So it would be both service provider and family household composition?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if there's 2 separate programs, yeah, and they're eligible for, those are the 2 reasons, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make that clear. Cool.
Right. Yeah, like you may have 3 programs where someone's ineligible for all 3 for the same reason, or they refuse all 3 for the same reason, and then of course that's only one unmet need. You may have 3 programs where there are 2 reasons, and you may have 3 programs where there are 3 reasons. It just gets hard because every time you have like the 3 programs with 3 reasons, it seems like you're doing it by program, and that can be dangerous. That's not really what you're doing. It just seems that way.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on to a new feature that soon will be available to us in Refer. And I need to, let's see, figure out how to, I don't know why this is such a struggle for me each time. I'm making you the presenter, Mr. Finley. And here it comes.
Okay. Yay. Okay.
That's through Refer.
So this will hopefully look familiar to all y'all. This is Refer. But there's some cool new stuff. It's really just one thing. And I don't know what the first group expected, but we think they expected like a lot, like it to be a lot crazier, flashier or something. Because people seem a little disappointed with this for some reason, because I think it's awesome and I think it makes everything a lot easier. So, but I guess like mitigate your expectations for some reason, because it's not like you're going to get, not like pizza's going to come out of your computer or something. Okay, so I'm going to put in, so this is for the, I'll give some context. This is the new Hunger Network search. This is so hopefully you can get rid of that old Hunger Network guide. So I'm going to start, like you're talking to someone, hey, how you doing? This is 211. My name's Matt Finley. What's happening? And then they say, hey, I'm looking for a food pantry. And, they live in Cuyahoga County. They're in the Hunger Network service area here, so they may have a Hunger Network pantry. So I'm going to put in their zip like I normally would. And that city's going to, everything up to this point is what you're used to. Get your other demographics there if you want to at this point. And this is where it gets crazy and different, but fun. You're going to have a people tab. I don't think you guys can see this right now. Right? You guys just have search and then data. Somebody affirm.
Yes.
You guys see the people?
Yeah.
Yeah, except for I think on Portage County or something, but yeah.
Oh, that's weird. Okay. Well, you're going to see this people tab for everything. So if you're looking for a food pantry for our CUI folks, you're going to jump into this people, this quick client info, and you see it's already carried over. So you're not re-entering that stuff. The only extra thing you're entering now is that street address. So I'm going to do 2519. Now it's already going to default to give me a list of every street that has a 2519 on it. If that's a huge list, I can decide instead to just start typing, and eventually you'll narrow down your selection. So I now have my address, and so once you have your address entered in, or I mean if you've already searched without it, once you have that address entered, any search that you run for a food pantry will include that specific address in the search. And so you will now see that I only have one Hunger Network pantry on this list, and it is the one, let me move my GoToMeeting here, it is the one that serves that, that serves that, that address, that particular address. The only weird little wrinkle here that you'll have to remember is that if you get a call, if you happen to have a call where they want multiple, if you're searching for multiple people that are in different, that have different addresses, you're going to have to just actually clear these, because if I were to just put in like that zip, and then I say, oh, wait, you have someone else, like, oh, your friend who's 44104, like they need one too. You see if I go back, this did not change. And so if I put in that 44104 address, it would get all confused, and you would either not get a result or you would get the wrong result. So if you're doing more than one on a single transaction, just remember to use clear. Otherwise, I mean, you're pretty good to go with this. So once again, oh, yeah.
Matt, so is this more precise than the Hunger Network booklet now?
It is exactly the same as the Hunger Network booklet.
It's the same.
The booklet. Yeah, I mean, it's the same. I mean, it is that physical like table you look at. It's just been made digital.
So we have an option of doing that instead of looking at the booklet then. So we have an option then, right?
Right. I mean, I would definitely say this is going to be better. And then the other thing is the book is not going to be updated ever again.
Oh, okay.
So we're not going to be giving out updated copies of the book. So I would just get familiar with this and comfortable with this and just start doing it.
Start using it then.
Yeah, as that book gets updated and some of those addresses we've sent to them that we know aren't linked, and especially I know Troy Hannon even mentioned there's now talk that there's what might be a pantry added and some service area redefined. All of that's just going to be loaded directly into this digital system. So
okay.
I would just, yeah, get comfortable with this as soon as you possibly can. And this will be made available for you guys hopefully for tomorrow.
Okay, so this is for the Hunger Network selection.
And you'll also still get any of those other food pantry results, you know, and you're going to be, you can use your filters the same way you always could, although they will impact your Hunger Network search. So if you have filters on and you put in an address, you know, if you're looking for today and that Hunger Network's not open today, you're not just automatically going to get the Hunger Network result in there. The filters will still apply. Nothing else changes about the search. Everything else is still just pulling from that zip. So you'll see I'm still getting all of the other pantries that would be available. And all it's doing is limiting the result set to one Hunger Network.
And the Hunger Network site will show up by distance still then, not yes. It won't be the first. This one just so happens to be the first.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. It's still sorting by distance. Yeah, the only functionality it's doing is eliminating the Hunger Network sites that don't serve the address you've put in.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, if refer goes down, which that never happens, and we have to use 211.org, will we be able to enter an address in 211.org to find a list of pantries that's open?
Nope. Not an address for Hunger Network, no.
Okay.
And my question is, if they ask for zip code 13 and then want to know also 04, is that a separate referral or do we just work within that first one? It's always been my understanding that we, you know, that's a separate call.
No, if it's one phone call.
One phone call? Okay.
Person, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's one call for one transaction in refer.
Right. That's correct.
And you just change all of your demographics to that second person that needs the service, but you continue all within that same one opened call.
Okay, because there was a point where, you know, they wanted you to close that and open up another one, but that was a while ago.
Now, if they go to the
If
they go to the same Hunger Network site, you would save it twice, though, right? Because it's two separate referrals, so you would end up saving that twice.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So this isn't quite active yet in refer.
But it's ready to be. It's actually up on the server, so I just need to get you guys access to that the client quick search, which will just be a tab between search and data. And so as I say, like your zip code when you put one in, will auto-populate. You do that, you'll just see it come in. So all you'll have to do is add the address here and then do your food pantry search.
Matt, there was still, like with the Hunger Network, there's still some addresses missing. So we're pretty much with the guide, and that's what we know at this point then, right? And then whatever other information you get about new pantries, we're pretty much with the guide addresses is how they stand then, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, as far as we know, and as new things get added or changed, you know, as I say, we'll just, as we hear things back from them, we'll be getting that information to refer to add to the tables that this pulls from, so that those results be reflected when you search.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you want to know, like within the system, if we get an address. Well,
yeah, it's always good. I mean, if you have an address and you know that it's like within the Hunger Network's service area, that if it's in like the city of Cleveland, then like definitely send that along.
Send that to see if it's missing, right? There's some stuff that's missing, and so if we know that it's just not there, then to get that over to you, then do a 211 and then see it to you then, correct?
Yeah, make sure the person gets the number
okay.
to call, for the Hunger Network to figure out what their pantry is and let us know what the address is, because, usually then we'll go back and forth to the Hunger Network. Because, usually in those cases what's happened is it's an area that because the addresses in the Hunger Network guide and on the map are, of course, just in areas that are zoned residentially. And so usually what's happened is, something has been either rezoned or developed, where suddenly you have, in some cases even just like an apartment building that's built somewhere where there was never housing before, and then suddenly there's this new address on this street that's not reflected in that range.
So notify you as we see it, as we go along then. Okay.
It just can be difficult. I mean, the Hunger Network, it's, it's a large machine, but it's also the slow one. And so, oftentimes it takes a little bit for them to get with the different pantries and figure out who's going to serve that new, block or whatever.
Okay.
Matt, if their Hunger Network site is closed, will your People Box throw us up the sister Hunger Network that they can go to?
If there's one established, we're going to do our best. You'll always see if this one's closed and obviously you're being sent to a designated other one. It'll definitely be in the notes of the one you pull out. It should be. I'm thinking about this. There's no reason it shouldn't be unless either there's not one established, like the one they're going to is closed and they haven't designated a substitute. That'd be the only case, because I know sometimes if they close for just for like a week, they don't designate a substitute. But if a substitute is designated, it shouldn't be any problem for us to make sure that that's the one you're hitting and that there's a note indicating that.
Okay.
Because this is all done on filters that we set.
You can always default to your name search too. If Wessam closes and within your service description it says, send everybody to Brookside, you can do a Brookside name search to find that one.
But if there's a designated substitute, we'll do our best to make sure that that's one of the things we're updating. And
I think this is going to be a big time saver. It keeps us from going old school. Right, Rob? Okay. Yep, it's new school. Any other questions, comments, concerns, unmet needs, new Hunger Network thing that our research helped develop? Okay, we're finished early. This is cool. Thanks, everybody.
Wait, I have
Bye.
a question.
Right.
Oh.
What's up?
Okay.
What about the Find Client tab?
What about the what?
The Find Client tab up at the top next to data.
Oh, we would use that if we collected client data, but we don't currently track client data.
Okay, so that's irrelevant for us now.
Right. Do you guys see that? I can probably pull that if you have it up there.
I don't see it. I have refer. I don't see it on mine. I was just wondering, was it something we need to know about it?
Oh yeah, no. I just don't have anything on the administrative account turned off. Just I don't know, for no reason. So.
Okay.
Yeah. No, good question. But no, yeah, some 2-on-1s because of different contracts they have, or just because they collect more specific data on individual clients and actually track, what clients are referred to over time. Will have names and addresses and things that they keep. And so if someone calls and says, hey, it's Matt Finley calling again, they can jump in that Find Client and search for Matt Finley and pull me up and say, oh, that's what we referred him to, last week, and what do you know what I mean? Yeah, but so we're currently not collecting information or storing information on that level, so that's why you don't have to worry about that. But that's a good question.
I have a question.
Yeah.
For 44102 in the Salvation Army, if you live, between downtown and West 65th, you go to the Salvation Army on Clark, and if you live 66th or higher, you go to the one on Lorraine. When I enter in the address, is it automatically going to know which Salvation Army, the client goes to?
This is only for Hunger Network pantries.
Oh, okay.
So this is all we've done is digitize, the Hunger Network guide and then put a numerical filter that matches the Hunger Center number at each Hunger Network, and then Refer has linked those addresses to that filter. So this feature is going to be, that's a really good question though, it's going to be useless to you for anything other than a food pantry search within the Hunger Network service area, wherein you're trying to identify the correct location of someone.
Okay.
All right, and just a small, simple question. This is going to be rolling out tomorrow, you're thinking?
I'm hoping. I want to, I haven't even looked at the what I have to do to try. I mean, it should be super simple for me to get this available. I just want to make sure everyone was trained on it and knew why they were seeing a people tab, basically, before suddenly they had people tab. So yes, I have confirmed it's on the servers as far as I can tell, because I just logged into TM Central and I'm using it off of my account, which is good, because before I had to log into a specific server.
All right, well, thank you.
So I hope so, yes.
Okay. Well, if you have any trouble navigating or anything, just contact supervisor, and we'll do what we can to make this a smooth transition from the book to what's now exactly in the book that's in Refer. So, okay. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.